This is Bobby with one more rep fitness. I'm gonna give you a very brief but effective, if you apply it, strength training for fat loss lesson. All right. Now, if you've been reading like articles, blogs, and you're trying to lose weight, you probably heard that strength training is imperative for losing fat. One of the biggest reasons is that the active strength training burns good amount of calories while you do it, but actually will burn a lot of calories after you work out because because your body has to spend more energy, which is our body's energy is basically calories, to recover from that. On top of that is like when you build muscle, okay, so if you were training for like a year, and say you built like 10 pounds of muscle in a year, maybe 20 pounds if you're a beginner, which it may seem like a lot, but it's if you do that through your whole body, you're probably just gonna look like toned. It's not like you're gonna look like a bodybuilder in 1 year. But what that's going to do is that your body will naturally start burning more calories, right? People who have more muscle, they have a higher metabolism because the more muscle you have, the more calories you usually burn, right? This is one of the reasons why guys usually can lose weight easier than females, and why as we get older, as we get older, we naturally lose muscle because our body adapts to our lifestyle of using less muscle. So we burn less. So we basically burn less of it. So we burn less calories, right? So if we want to kind of reverse that and get better results from a fat loss standpoint, strength training is a great tool. If you use the right strength training techniques, which I'm going to briefly explain to you, on top of a great nutrition approach and being active as far as conditioning approaches, and whatever that means, whatever you like to do, if you like going for walks, runs, playing sports, whatever. So I'll give you guys 3 ways to make sure that your strength training approach is fat loss based, right? So the number one thing is use compound lifts. A lot of times when people they start lifting, they might see other people at the gym, read a bodybuilding magazine, they see a lot of isolation stuff. Compound stuff burns a lot more calories, right? So it's going to be a lot more effective from a fat burning standpoint. Plus, you're going to trigger more muscle growth, which again, like I explained earlier, is going to trigger more fat loss, right? Once you build that muscle. So, like isolation and single joint would be things like maybe a bicep curl, if you can see that, shoulder raise. So you notice I'm just moving around one joint, my shoulder here. Nothing else really moves. Versus something like a push-up, where if you see my push-up, I'm moving around the shoulder joint and the elbow joint, and especially if I do a push-up right, I'm activating my glutes, I'm activating my core too. So things like a squat, deadlift, lunge, the bulk of your program should be built on that. Now, if you want to do accessory stuff like later on in the workout because you like to do them, that's fine, but they're not very effective for building muscle, and they're not super effective at burning calories. So you want most of your workout to consist of that. So if you're not doing that, definitely switch some exercises out, give that a try, all right? A good rule of thumb is have one squat variation, one type of like push-up or chest press variation, one type of row variation where you're pulling the weight towards you, a single leg variation like a step up or lunge, and then a hip hinge variation where you don't bend your knees too much, but you move around within the hip. So that's a good like hip thruster, back extension, deadlift, stuff like that. The second thing I want to talk about is tempo. So when people start lifting, they have bad form, and they usually move very fast. So number one with that is make sure you learn how to do it right. If that's asking someone who's experienced at the gym, or maybe you just you hire one trainer at the gym for like one time, just so they can show you how to do all the exercises right. And once you get that down, you want to focus on the tempo. Now this goes back to what I said before. If you use this tempo, your body's going to actually do more work, so you're going to burn more calories, and you're going to stimulate more muscle growth. All right, again, that's going to burn more calories, and all this calorie burning that we're talking about, if your nutrition is dialed in and you're recovering from your workouts, you're going to burn fat. So like a very basic tempo that you can start with. And now certain exercises you might do faster, other exercises you might do slower. But like a 2 or 3 second negative, a 1 second pause at the bottom of the move, and then explosive up. Again, this doesn't go for everything, but most lifts you can do this with. So if I'm doing like a push-up, I'm going to take about 2 or 3 seconds to come down, so like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Once I get here, I can pause for 1 second and then explode up, okay? I can do that with a row, I can do the push-ups. just push-ups, squats, lunges, a lot of different things, all right? And again, you're going to build more muscle long-term, which will burn more calories, increase your metabolism. Plus, during the session, you'll actually burn more calories, so it's more metabolic. It's more fat-burning friendly, lifting like that, okay? And the third thing is within lifting and strength training, they have this kind of law. It's called progressive overload. So the law is that to get results, your body you should try to overload the muscle each week. So basically what that means is every week you're trying to do a little more work, all right? And this is very important from a fat loss standpoint because even like if you do like different condition things like running, jogging, walking, the more you do it, the better you get at it, becomes less effective. So like if you started jogging, for instance, it might be very effective from a calorie fat burning standpoint, but the better you get at it, the less effective it becomes because your body gets very good at doing that. And when your body gets very good at doing that, it can do it with less energy, okay? Which is good because you feel comfortable, but it's bad for fat loss because you're not burning as many calories anymore. So same thing with like strength training. If I'm always doing 3 sets of 10 with push-ups, there's going to come a point where that gets really easy, right? And then it doesn't take a lot of muscle power or strength for me to do that anymore, and I'm not going to burn as many calories as I used to. So that's why each week, if we can, and not every week, especially the more advanced you get, you won't always be able to do this, but you want to progress either reps, sets, or weight, okay? So with weights, very, very simple. If I'm doing like a chest press, say I'm doing 3 sets of 10. Next week, maybe I'm going to try to do, say I'm doing 3 sets of 10 with the 20. Maybe next week, I'm going to try to do 3 sets of 10 with the 25, okay? If I'm doing push-ups, or maybe back to the chest press, maybe I stay with my 20s, but next week I do 3 sets of 12, right? I've done something more intense, right, that my body wasn't used to. Another thing you can do is do more sets. So I could do 4 sets of 10 with the same weight. Another thing I could do is focus on doing that work faster by taking less rest. So say I do 3 sets of 10, but last week it takes me 5 minutes. I did it today and it only took me 3 minutes. I've done more work, all right? So you want to at least try to do that with each week with your major compound lifts. And that it's going to make sure that you always burn a high amount of calories, but at the same time, you're making continuous progress, continuous strength gains, and muscle gains, which will lead to more calorie burning and fat burning, all right? So just break it down. Make sure you guys do progressive overload, trying to push. Basically make the workout a little harder each week. Focus on proper tempo. Don't rush through the movement. Know how to do it right. 3 seconds down. Pause at the bottom. Explode up. All right. And just remember I completely forgot the first one. I'm really spaced now, but just kind of rewind back. If you guys need to see the first one, you can review again. But if you follow those 3 things, your workouts, your strength training workouts will be a lot more effective as far as a strength muscle building, but more importantly, what you're probably watching this video for is from a fat loss standpoint.